On this episode of More Influence and Impact, we are diving into the significance of accessibility in your SOPs, standard operating procedures, and the impact of how your company culture influences your team dynamics, and so much more. I have an incredible guest for you today. This is Adriana Richardson. Hello, Adriana.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
Yes. So Adriana is the owner of the Lazy Millennial, which is a business consulting and award-winning technical writing company specializing in empowering leaders to scale their businesses through strategic team building or licensing frameworks. So we'll definitely be talking about the team building and the SOPs, and I bet we'll cover a little bit of the frameworks licensing as well. So tell us a little bit about high level journey of how you got to where you are in running the Lazy Millennial.
Yeah, so I started my business back in 2018. During that time, I was going as Avis or Adriana's Virtual Assistant Solutions. So with that was my virtual assistant business. I was doing that. That picked up pretty quickly. So I ended up turning into like an agency model. But the problem with that was that I was not prepared to bring on a bunch of people into my business. And being the person that I was a writer, so I already wrote and everything, but like being the person that was just like, okay, if I'm hiring somebody to do a particular job, they should know how to do it, right? Because like I'm a virtual assistant, they're a virtual assistant, so like it should be easy. Right. Was not easy. It ended up, there's so many stories I can tell about this, but like it ended up just being a whole whirlwind, from people stealing content or trying to steal clients, down to just like assignments being missed because people either didn't know what they were doing or it wasn't to my liking to get to the client. So like it was just a whole host of things. But in 2020, I ended up like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Let me figure it out. And I shut down the agency. I kept a few clients on just to kind of like pay bills, but I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So started kind of like helping people with like their standard operating procedure and stuff, because I noticed when people were hiring us, they didn't know what they wanted either. They were just like, okay, I need help with this, but it was the same thing I was dealing with my own team. Like it wasn't to their liking, or they weren't able to like articulate what they really needed, things like that. So I was like, okay, let me see. I'm figuring like maybe SOPs are the answer here. And like when I looked up SOPs during that time, it was mainly like corporate or like construction or things like that. So it was like really technical, but like it didn't really say much. So I was like, okay, let me figure out what to do here. Started helping some of my clients under the table with helping their SOP. I was like, I didn't know it was called technical writing. I didn't know any of that stuff just yet. So started helping with that. And then once I started getting them in order, after I got myself in order, by the way, I realized, like, okay, all right, like this is, okay, there's like a little flow here. So this is what businesses are needing, but how can I market this? Like, how can I tell people this is what I help with and why you need it? So 2021, I fully transitioned to the Lazy Millennial, changed, like I rebranded as a Lazy Millennial, and here we are doing a whole bunch of work in standard operating procedures, technical right, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So you really learned from just being out there and having a lot of difficult experiences with your own business, and then seeing the same problems happening in your client's business and saying, okay, like there's a need here. So do you remember what led you to stumble on SOPs? Like what, do you remember that light bulb moment or that aha?
Yeah. Okay. So I was like, it was one of the chances. Like I shut down a lot. I used to grow a lot. That's why I would talk about like the growth wall. Like I would grow significantly, and then I would have to stop pretty much everything I was doing just to kind of like backtrack. Like, okay, I'm missing something. So during one of those moments, I think it was like after I hired another website developer or something. But anyway, I was like, okay, something is going wrong here. Like I'm hiring people, but like we're still not flowing the way we need to. So that's when one of the coaches I was with, I think I was like in a program then, she was just like, oh, you need standard operating procedures. Like, oh, okay, cool. But like, how do you do that? And she's oh, just record the videos and do some steps and stuff. So like I did that. And even though when I did that, I wasn't clear enough then. So like, I was like, okay, let me keep tweaking this and let me figure things out. And from there, that's when I was like, okay. So like I had the videos, and then also too, because I'm a writer, I was still writing a lot. And I was kind of half doing the video portion because I was like, they know, like they can just read, like, because I like reading. So I figure everyone else wants to read. So long story short, I was just like, okay, let me just tweak it, keep it video, like accessible, keep all this stuff the same way, super short. And then once my team was like gathering, like, oh, where you meant this, oh, let's do this. And I started seeing the work being produced like more quickly, and they actually understood what I was trying to say and do. I was just like, that's when a light bulb went. I was like, oh, like, okay, this is what I actually had to do. So yeah, one of my growth
Cool.
moments.
Yeah, so it's like you took that breadcrumb and then you ran with it. And something similar happened to me in 2019. I had a VA and my business was growing really quickly. I was getting all these clients. And I've always been a very natural, systematic person and linear thinker. And I really think it goes back to my music background because it's like you start a
Yeah.
song, you end. And so I just naturally like thought that way. And so my assistant was like, well, you need SOPs. I'm like, well, what is that? And that really took me down the rabbit hole that I've been on for 5 years now of like learning processes and SOPs and systemizing. So we all have that journey. And and it sounds like sometimes people, when they get into like the operational field like you, it's like, oh, they did it in corporate and now they're starting their business, or
Right.
they got a certification and now they're going to help. So but I also feel there's people like us that we just learn through doing in our experience,
Right.
and that's just as valuable as any of those other ways that people pick it up.
Exactly. And I feel like too, even with the certificates and stuff, when I was looking at them, I feel like they're so outdated. So it's just like, even though they go through it, it's like they still need like the tweaks and stuff. Cause I feel like it's still very stuck in the 90s, almost 90s, or maybe early 2000s. Not to be mean or anything, but like, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And then some
Yeah.
of the certifications are also designed for you to kind of get a job, right? So you're just going to
Right.
go work in somebody's company. They're not designed to be a consultant and, expert like what you do or what I do in our businesses.
Exactly.
So let's dive into like, because you really shared the journey about your iteration process with the SOP, but let's talk about specifically like accessible SOPs, and how would you like high level define what accessibility is in your SOPs?
I would say just point blank, like accessible SOPs are just simply processes that people can access. So like, can your team have access to all the processes that they need to complete their job? Because a lot of times like we'll complete them, like I said, stuff is outdated, so a lot of times we'll keep them like in Word documents or Google Drive or whatever, OneDrive, whatever, and people don't have access to it. So it's like they're scrummaging around, like figuring out like, what do we need to do for this job? And then leadership is getting upset because no one's doing the work. So it's just like the disconnect. So like straightforward, accessible, standard operating procedures, making sure everyone has access to it. And then with the inclusive part is like making sure it fits all of the different learning styles and disabilities. So like I said, I'm a reader. I have trouble capturing audio sometimes. So like it doesn't make sense for me to have like a whole bunch of audio to listen to learn a job.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to grasp onto it as quick. So like making sure I have like something for like audio or video, and then like transcripts, written text, but like making sure they're super short, because our average reading level, especially in America, I think it's like 6th or 7th grade. So like you
Yeah.
don't want to just throw a whole bunch of words, like even if they're super technical or for your industry, like you still want to make sure it's like clear cut, super simple, and also somewhere people can access them. And normally it's like in software, because they make so much software nowadays. You can put your processes there, everyone has access, done deal, and it makes it simple.
Okay. Okay. So like, do you have for an SOP, will you have audio, video, written? Like, will you provide all the different methods for people?
Yeah, so like
Mhm.
how I structure it kind of like a class almost, because like they're learning how to do things inside your company. So I structure it as kind of like, okay, they need to learn how to do this, so we need to break it up by XYZ. This is the kind of text that we need to have. And then also when it comes to policies and stuff, you don't need videos and stuff for that. It's just simply like if you need to show them how to actually do something, so they have to learn the company software for sales or something, like sales process.
Mhm.
Like if y'all use a particular software, like you need to have like the standard operating procedures for that, and they need to learn that, all the process and stuff. So it needs to be somewhere they can access it, and also have all the different variety of how they can do their job. So that way there's no room for miscommunication. If there is, that's like, okay, like maybe we need to talk one-on-one and figure something out.
Got it. So they're really clear on their steps. They know how to access
Right.
everything. It's inclusive, so they can get the information in different ways. Got it. And then what about task management? Then how do you take, actually, there were two questions I had, but we'll start with the task management. Like, how do you then turn that into like to-do lists, or do you do task management with your team?
Kind of, to me, they're kind of like the same thing. So like if I need to do it pretty much boils down to like the day-to-day operation. So it's just like if I need them to access this software daily, then they have like a checklist. Like, okay, if you need to refer back like how to use the software, here's the SOP for that. But this is the actual stuff I need you to do. And then usually like I can refer them back. So like, okay, like if this is the process for sending out mass emails for XYZ, here's the process for that. You can find it here. Otherwise, this is the task I need you to do and how many I need you to do each day and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, to me, they're kind of the same, but overall, yeah, because it's pretty much, it boils down to day-to-day operations. That's the whole point of me doing the operational standard operating procedures.
Totally. Yeah. And then my other question was keeping them updated, because if you're training on like how to use this software, even like Calendly just had a big update with its layout. And I was going in and I was reading my CRM. They had this instruction on like a step by step, and so I'm looking at and it's got the old interface and the old screenshots, and it's not representing the new things. But the same thing for our companies, like when we have step-by-step and guides and tutorials, how are you keeping up with those technological updates and interface updates to keep your SOPs updated?
So normally, if I'm not hired on to like help maintain, normally there's team members that help with that.
Yeah.
But normally I usually recommend, because it's a lot, because like you said, there's we have so many departments in our business, even if we're by ourselves, like just making sure, or one, setting like a task, like a to-do list, like the end of the month. I usually tell people, like, if you're by yourself and you're not hiring anyone right now, just setting like a little reminder, just kind of like checking emails, like running through like the software, making sure things are up to date. It doesn't have to take like a super long time. And if it is something that changed, an interface changed, or if it's not like super different, like they still have to hit the same buttons, you can do another video, or you can kind of be like, make note somewhere like, hey, this changed and I didn't get a chance to redo the video just yet, but it's still the same steps. So it's, just kind of, you don't want to make yourself overwhelmed doing it, because it can become a lot. Like I would say, if you can update it at the end of every month, or even bi-monthly or something, just to kind of like check, because things change, especially when you're using software. So it's hard keeping up. So if you're by yourself, definitely setting time to do it by yourself, but ideally having a team member do it for you. They kind of like check everything, or be like, hey, this changed, you need to do another video. I'll just add it to your to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that you just catch. You're like, oh, they changed this, and okay, let's go fix it. Something I was thinking about was, I don't really do much with Facebook anymore, but with some things with Facebook, like with the business suite and the platform, it seemed like things would be in a different place every time. It's like, oh, that button's missing, or oh, features come and go. And it's like, oh, I'm glad I don't use it much.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel there. Like, I don't even like mess with Facebook for that reason. I'm just like, I don't even want to like figure this out.
No, I know. Too inconsistent. Well, this is great. So then let's get into the conversation around company culture and, really setting up that strong company culture. What's the value of it? And then why, what are the challenges that businesses face when they neglect to establish their company culture?
Oh gosh. Okay. So putting myself out there again. So when it came to company culture, I thought it was just like a corporate thing. I thought that was something I did not need to worry about. So I brought all these different people inside of it. Didn't really think about I didn't think about them as an individual. Like I was like, yes, I knew they were the business owner. I knew them as like the virtual assistant I hired to help me with my clients. I didn't really think about like, oh, what does Sarah want? Like, how does she want her stuff? Like, what do they want? Like, how, like, what makes them feel valued? So I would say for business owners, one, if you want to start building it in early, just think about I like to go back to figuring out the design of your business. So figuring out how you want your business to sound. Do you need people to help you do your job at some point? Like, it doesn't have to be right away, but if you know you're going to hire somebody at some point, you definitely want to make sure you start kind of thinking about okay, am I going to bring them on as an employee? Am I going to bring them on as a 1099? How do I want this relationship to flow? Do I need them to do this? Do I want to give this 1099? Do I want to give them something bonus? Do I want to offer a referral thing for my employees? Do I want to offer the same thing? Do I want to add bonuses quarterly? Do I want to do something yearly? But overall, I can go on and on. But overall, you want to think about the environment you're bringing other people in. But that really starts from the very beginning of how you design your full business. So like, if you need people, like, you're bringing people in, if you're still kind of like on the fence, like, I don't know if I want somebody, like, you still kind of want to design things to kind of be like, okay, if I do bring somebody in, even if it's something like a quick project, how do I want our relationship to go? And with company culture, because I see it on both sides, because like we have the 1099 side and we have the employee side. With the employee side, there's so much more you can do. And with the 1099, you want to be careful what you implement because they're not employees. And if you treat them like employees, like you could be in a whole bunch of legal trouble. But overall, it just boils down to like, how do I want to treat people that are coming into my space and what kind of stuff do I want to offer them just to kind of like for them to actually want to hang around. Because like a lot of people kind of get left into like this circle, like I only want to do my job. So like how can I make them want to do more, like encourage them to see more and be like, I really want this relationship to work and I really want us to be like a partnership type thing. So long story short, I feel I was going a little off, but long story short, company culture, just think about how you want to treat people. Like, it's just hard, like start developing policies, start thinking about processes, like how you want things to do, like something I used to do with my contractors, because again, I did not think about this. So like, until I started redoing my thing back in like 2020, I started implementing like quarterly team check-ins. I would check like, hey, do you still like the job I hired you for? Because that was like a main thing they didn't like. And that's where I learned more about like cross-training and all that stuff. Like, okay, like if you don't want to do that, I could train you how to do social media. But that's not a problem. So yeah, so that's why I learned like a whole bunch of like, oh, like they stayed longer. Like I still have people now, like from 2019, like that still work under me whenever I need projects or need their help. Just because like I implemented team check-ins, like, hey, do you still want to do this? Hey, I can just train you on this because I need help with this. What else do we do? Doing like bonuses, referral bonuses, things like that. But overall, it just depends how you want your business to flow. But like you want to think about the environment you're setting, because the last thing you want to do is just throw a whole bunch of people in and it just becomes a job. Like, even though, yes, it is a job, but like you want to offer something so that people are like more attached. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. Yeah. They're more attached to actually want to stay with your company.
Yeah. And I think even with, I work a lot with contractors in my business too. And really creating that culture and really kind of setting the tone. So I know I just brought on somebody new and we started off with my 3 core values of like, these are the company values. And I used to have 10. And I was like, we're just going to have 3. We're going to do them really, really well. And I just brought in of like, these are the standards. And then, weaving them into the communication and how we talk and in our interactions and all of that. I think that that's so important, especially for when we have 1099 contractors that they're on different projects. Right. Yeah. And so it's like they may have a couple projects they're on. And so you want them to like come on and be like, okay, I'm fully plugged in and I like know what it's like when I'm doing this project and for this company and what the standards are. And a lot of time it's a breath of fresh air for them too. Yeah. When they come in. But one huge pain point that I've had that I had with somebody I let go was that it was like transactional, and it was because I didn't have the value. So it was like, here's a task, check, next. And so, and I'm sure that we've got listeners and viewers that are in that situation right now where it's this huge drain because basically you're constantly just having to like come up with stuff for people to do because, because maybe one, they're not the right fit, or 2, it's because you haven't really like created that culture for what you want and, the SOPs and how to do your job and all of that.
Right. And I was like, even so for like my virtual assistant, there were times like they just didn't have projects. So like for them to hang around, like they knew it was just like, hey, I may not have a project yet, but like I can still come in on Slack and like just kind of like see what everyone's up to and things like that. And that seemed like it's like little simple things. I was just like, whoa, I felt like my mind was blown. Like, wow, why didn't I just do this sooner? Instead of having the project management. Like at first we just talked there. It's like we need something, just talk to them through there. But implementing like the community portion of stuff definitely helped too.
Yeah, to create that. And and because it's like when we're kind of all business, I like to get to know my team members and like what's going on with their families and what are you doing? And, because that helps create that relationship. And I think because we're all remote workers, we have remote businesses, we want to create that community and that connection with our people. So I really feel like that's a big takeaway of the culture, is like the connection and how you want your team to like feel, experience being on your team, and how do you create loyalty and like a positive environment that they want to show up for and be part of.
Exactly.
Cool. So what advice would you give entrepreneurs who are planning to scale their teams? Because one thing we talked in a previous conversation was like building with someone else in mind. So and I love that idea. What advice would you give our listeners and viewers?
I would definitely say, just for previous experience and just like in general, like a lot of clients come to me for this, is just make sure you have your day-to-day mapped out, because a lot of people are hiring, myself included. We will hire because it's like we need help with this particular thing, but we don't realize, like, when you break it down to like the day-by-day aspect, we don't realize like, oh, like I don't really need this person here maybe but a few times a month. So it's just like, so just figuring out how often do you really need somebody. It really helps too. Like when it comes to like hiring somebody, it's like, okay, like exactly like what you need them for, what to expect, how to do the work and stuff, or how they should work, things like that. But figure out your day-to-day. Like before you even try to hire somebody, figure out what you need to do each day, write that stuff out, like how long it takes you can. People work different, but it's helpful kind of just to have an idea. But again, take it with a grain of salt because we do work different. Right. But figure out your day-to-day, figure out what exactly you need them for, because oftentimes that will turn into maybe two different people, because you like break it down like I want this person to do X, Y, Z, and then it's like, oh, I actually need someone for marketing and sales. So it's just like figure that out first before you try to like, I need help with marketing, and you just go forward with somebody and then learn, oh, I actually need somebody else too, and then you're kind of like invest with this person. Just figure out the day-to-day first.
Okay. That's a great starting point, because, if somebody is going to hire and they're not even clear on what their day-to-day is, and then they think that this person's just going to step in and magically save the day, and there's just, you have all this unknown. And I see that so often, especially with visionaries. I work a lot with visionaries. So like there's in their heads and they have a lot of ideas, and it can be very, very hard for them to bring on team members, because like the documentation and the communication of like the step-by-step is very difficult for them. And so so it's like, and maybe that's the person that you need to bring in then, is the person who can actually, maybe you don't need a VA, you just need somebody that can come in and help you document your step-by-step initially, and document the day-to-day. Because even like saying that to someone might be kind of overwhelming for them if that's not something that they really have the bandwidth to do because they're overworked. And that's something that you do with your team, right? Like where you'll come in and help them document the day-to-day.
Yeah, like usually we break down, like a lot of times people come to me like when they're like at the point of either hiring another team member or maybe like their first one. So like we just figure out like, okay, let's figure out like what exactly do you need them to do each day. And a lot of times they realize like, oh, maybe I don't need to hire yet, or maybe I just need to fully utilize the software I already have and just not give myself so much to do. But overall, just figuring out like what exactly you need to do and how long it may take. And also the scope of like how long you need them. Like, do you actually need them for ongoing support? Or is it something like you need someone to kind of like swoop in and just get you up to date and then maybe come back quarterly or something like that? So that's another thing too.
Yeah. And then they're ready. Like you said, they're either ready to hire that next team member or a new one or whatever. And then, and then you can come in and like your team can come in and do the maintenance and help keep things up to date. That's awesome. That's a great service that you provide. And I really love that you say that, like coming from the virtual assistant background, being like, maybe hiring someone isn't the thing that you need. Yeah.
I always joke about that. I was like, when I looked through my marketing, I was like, you guys shouldn't listen to like my old stuff. Like, I'll just share it. Like, don't listen to me back in the day. Like, you just need to do this first. Like, honestly, too. And then when it comes to documenting, too, it sounds more difficult. I was like, that's not the word I'm looking for, but it sounds more difficult than what it is. Because, like, I tell people, like, I have my people, because I work a lot of people with ADHD, too. I have ADHD. So, like, we do, like, a whole bunch of, like, checklists and stuff. And then it's like when they actually have to make the center of our procedure, it's a lot easier than them just being like, go in front of a Word document and just type out steps for this and record. And then, so just start off the best way that you can.
Yeah, yeah. And you would think that the documentation is harder, but like bringing on another human being to your business before you're ready and able to really communicate and take that responsibility, that is hard.
Yeah, I've done that a little more times than I
Yeah.
care to admit, but yeah, definitely so.
Yeah. And two, you can create I did this with an assistant who was pretty good at documentation where I created a culture where I was like, hey, when you go do a task, and you get it going, I want you to document all the steps.
Yeah.
And create the SOP for that. Or I had a team member leave, and there was one part of I had a pretty big my process for this podcast and show, and there was one part, it's like the publishing to the blog post. She just kind of
Mhm.
figured it out. So I was like, hey, before you go, I want you to record a Loom video and show me step by step what you did. And so then I was able to take that and then put that into an SOP. And then found, okay, like there's actually a gap here that we need to like go and fix of something that she was doing.
Yeah,
So like that's on the to-do list. So it's really helpful to have, your team kind of step in. And I think that's part of the company culture too, is like, hey, we're a
right.
business that documents things. And I'll tell you, when people come and work with me, they're like, oh my gosh, Celia, you're so organized. And oh my God, it's like they love it. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm organized to a fault.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah,
okay, like it does, like we don't have to organize our organization systems,
yeah. And I find myself like having to like catch myself, and that's why I love having team members that like either think identical to me, but like they operate different. So it's just like, hey, like stop thinking about that. We need you for this. So that's
Yes.
kind of I just love it. Like it definitely helps when you have team members that know what they're doing and kind of like can help you
Yeah.
move things along.
Yeah, that's that accountability and the culture piece too, right? Where they're like, "Hey, you're the owner," and they're like telling you, "Hey, like Adriana, like, hey, let's focus
Yeah,
here." Like that's a great dynamic versus then what I was talking about earlier, sort of like the transactional. I was like, "Here's a
right,
task, do it," like no, like we want your full person to show up. We want to hear your
right.
voice. We want to hear you, like your ideas and your views, they're valued here.
Exactly.
Cool. So we're kind of running up on time here. We didn't really get into talk about licensing, but why don't we just do like a quick high level, like just talk a little bit about licensing for a
Yeah.
moment, because they can come follow you on LinkedIn. That's where I'm connected. I know you're on Facebook too. We'll talk about connections. Not so much.
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
a funny Facebook thing that I'll say after this, but yeah, talk about
The
the high
licensing.
level, yeah, licensing.
I got y'all. Okay. So like I talked a lot about the team building side of um processes, SOPs and stuff. I almost forgot what I was talking about. But when it comes to licensing, so it just boils down to like, okay, again, how do you want to design your business? So like if you're somebody that does not want to build out a team, but like you still want to scale and make different, like bigger impact in different areas, licensing comes in because if you have a unique framework that you're teaching people or like your clients, like you have like a process that you follow with your clients, it goes really well. You get compliments on it. Your clients are doing amazing. This is where licensing comes in. So, like, you can document your framework. So, like, you write out all the steps, pretty much the same thing as building out a team. Like, the whole point of standard operating procedures is for people to duplicate what you are doing. And that's where SOPs come in. So, like, SOPs also for having someone else purchase and they duplicate what you do and make money from that. So like you make money from that and they make money from like the success that you have had because you've actually tested out these processes. So that's where that comes in. That's just pretty much the short version of it.
That's awesome. Yes. Yeah. So I love how you position that. Like it's a different way to scale if you don't want to go the building out a big team route and you want
Right.
to sell your own intellectual property. And I know you talk a lot about that on LinkedIn. And I know you provided some resources for us. There's some opt-ins and goodies. So what all did you share with our audience for those?
Yeah. So I am still in the middle of working on it. Give me a moment. But I have a whole page dedicated to like templates. I have like past digital products from like when I was a virtual assistant. that's still pretty useful. It's just, it doesn't align with what I'm doing now. But I have a whole web page dedicated to like templates and all this other stuff. I am continuously adding. I'm trying to do like once a month. It's looking more like every other month, but still, you can have that link, bookmark it. I have it completely free to download. You do not have to opt into the email list. There is an option to join my email list, but I found it just to be easier just to kind of like grab and go, so people aren't just coming on my list and just sitting there. Just sitting there. I was like, I'm one of the people that don't really care about the numbers. I want people to actually want to stay on there and read my stuff. So if you like to join, you can. However, the templates are completely free. All the resources are completely free to download and do what you please.
Perfect. Yeah. So we'll have that linked in the show notes for everyone. And then where should they connect with you on social? Is LinkedIn your number one, or where do you hang out most?
Definitely LinkedIn. I try to be on TikTok every so often. Sometimes I'll get the momentum. You'll see some videos, but don't be upset with me if you don't see me for like 2 months after that. But LinkedIn is definitely top.
Yeah, LinkedIn's number one. So, and that's where I think we connected first maybe on Facebook and then LinkedIn, or I don't know, but we stay in contact in LinkedIn. It's so funny because I barely use Facebook, and I was on a couple nights ago and I was like, dude, like, Facebook is like, there's all this drama. I go on and it's like drama.
Make another video on that.
People doing posts, and I'm like, okay, like it is not like that on LinkedIn. And then like I get on the next day and like the person's like responding to the drama and is like drama. I'm like, this is why I like LinkedIn.
Yeah, it throws off like my emotional well-being. I don't know if I get too attached to stuff or what, but like it throws me off like mentally. Yes. So I'm just like, I'll go on every so often. Like I try to engage with like some of the regulars and like newer people I add on. But like overall, I always try to send people like, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know. That's where I hang out, and it's just like much more chill and low key. And I think too, like the content on LinkedIn, like I feel like being on LinkedIn, like I grow as an entrepreneur and as a business person just by like the creators that I follow and they share. And like it leads to like conversations like this. Like I had a really good understanding of your business and what you do. So when we were coming onto the show, it's like, hey, like let's have this powerful conversation. So it's really great to like be known as an expert. So yeah, I can sell LinkedIn all day long. Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your brilliance, Adriana. This was awesome. I'm super excited for everyone to hear this episode, and they're going to get so much out of it. And really just like your unique perspective, because I feel like you make processes and culture and all of this fun and like lighthearted. It's not like this stressful. And I think that really goes with your brand vibe of the Lazy Millennial, of just like, you're kind of a rule breaker and you're like, do it the way that you want to do it, that feels good for you, and grow and do a great job in your business too, and supporting your clients.
That makes me happy because that's the exact vibe I'm going for.
Good. And thank you to all of our listeners and viewers with more influence and impact. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye, y'all.